brought a letter with me. I hope she will give me a little time. I ask very little time." "If that is all you come about, sir," said Mr. Bray, "you may make easy yourself on that head. Madeline, my dear, I didn't know this person was in your debt." A trifle, I believe," returned Madeline faintly. "I suppose you think now," said Bray, wheeling his chair round and confronting Nicholas, "that for such pitiful sums as you bring here, because my daughter has chosen to employ her time as she has, we should starve." "I have not thought about it," returned Nicholas. "You have not thought about it," sneered the invalid. "You know you have thought about it, and have thought that, and think so every time you come here. Do you suppose, young man, that I don't know what little purse-proud tradesmen you are, when through some fortunate circumstance they get the upper hand for a brief day, or think they get the upper hand of a gentleman?" "My business," said Nicholas respectfully, "is with a lady." "With a gentleman's daughter, sir," returned the old sick man. "And the pettifogging spirit is the same. But perhaps you bring orders, eh? Have you any fresh orders for my daughter, sir?" Nicholas understood the tone of triumph in which this interrogatory was put, but remembering the necessity of supporting his assumed character, produced a scrap of paper purporting to contain a list of some subjects for drawing which his employer desired to have executed, and with which he had prepared himself in case of any such contingency. "Oh," said Mr. Bray, "these are the orders, are they?" "Since you insist upon the term, sir, yes," replied Nicholas. "Then you may tell your master," said Bray, tossing the paper back again with an exulting smile, "that my daughter, Miss Madeline Bray, condescends to employ herself no longer in such labours as these, that she is not at his beck and call, as he supposes her to be, and that we don't live upon his money as he flatters himself we do, that he may give whatever he owes us to the first beggar that passes his shop, or add it to his own profits next time he calculates them, and that he may go to the devil for me. That is my acknowledgment of his orders, sir." "And this is the independence of a man who sells his daughter as he has sold that weeping girl," thought Nicholas. The father was too much absorbed with his own exultation to mark the look of scorn which, for an instant, Nicholas could not have suppressed had he been upon the rack. "There," he continued after a short silence, "you have your message and can retire, unless you have any further orders." "I have none," said Nicholas, "nor, in the consideration of the station you once held, have I used that or any other word, which, however harmless in itself, could be supposed to imply authority on my part, or dependence on yours. I have no orders, but I have fears that I will express, chafe as you may, fears that you may be consigning that young lady to something worse than supporting you by the labour of her hands, had she worked herself dead. These are my fears, and these fears I have found upon your own demeanour. Your conscience will tell you, sir, whether I construe it well or not." "For heaven's sake," cried Madeline, interposing in alarm between them, "remember, sir, he is ill." "Ill!" cried the invalid, gasping and catching for breath. "Ill, ill! I am bearded and bullied by a shop boy, and he beseeches him to pity me, and remember I am ill." He fell into a paroxysm of his disorder, so violent that for a few moments Nicholas was alarmed for his life, but finding that he began to recover, he withdrew, after signifying by a gesture to the young lady that he had something important to communicate, and would wait for her outside the room. He could hear the sick man came gradually, but slowly to himself, and that without any reference to what had just occurred, as though he had no distinct recollection of it as yet, he requested to be left alone. "Oh," thought Nicholas, "that this slender chance might not be lost, and that I might prevail, if it were but for 1 week's time in reconsideration." "You are charged with some commission to me, sir," said Madeline, presenting herself in great agitation. "Do not press it now, I beg and pray you. The day after tomorrow. Come here then." "It will be too late for what I have to say," rejoined Nicholas, "and you will not be here. Oh, madam, if you have but one thought of him who sent me here, but one last lingering care for your own peace of mind and heart, I do, for God's sake, urge you to give me a hearing." She attempted to pass him, but Nicholas gently detained her. "A hearing," said Nicholas. "I ask you but to hear me, not me alone, but him for whom I speak, who is far away and does not know your danger. In the name of heaven, hear me!" The poor attendant, with her eyes swollen and red with weeping, stood by, and to her Nicholas appealed in such passionate terms that she opened a side door, and, supporting her mistress into an adjoining room, beckoned Nicholas to follow them. "Leave me, sir, I pray," said the young lady. "I cannot, I will not leave you thus," rejoined Nicholas. "I have a duty to discharge, and, either here or in the room from which we have just now come, at whatever risk or hazard to Mr. Bray, I must beseech you to contemplate again the fearful course to which you have been impelled." "What course is this you speak of, and impelled by whom, sir?" demanded the young lady, with an effort to speak proudly. "I speak of this marriage," returned Nicholas, "of this marriage, fixed for tomorrow by one who never faltered in a bad purpose, or lent his aid to any good design, of this marriage, the history of which is known to me better, far better than it is to you. I know what web is wound about you. I know what men they are, and from whom these schemes have come. You are betrayed and sold for money, for gold, whose every coin is rusted with tears, if not red with the blood of ruined men, who have fallen desperately by their own hands." "And you say you have a duty to discharge," said Madeline, "and so have I, and with the help of heaven I will perform it." "Say rather with the help of devils," replied Nicholas, "with the help of men, one of whom, your destined husband, who are—" "I must not hear this," cried the young lady, striving to repress a shudder, occasioned, as it seemed, even by this slight allusion to Arthur Gride. "This evil, if evil it be, has been of my own seeking. I am impelled to this course by no one, but follow it of my own free will. You see, I am not constrained or forced. Report this," said Madeline, "to my dear friend and benefactor, and taking with you my prayers and thanks for him and for yourself, leave me forever." "Not until I have besought you, with all the earnestness and fervour by which I am animated," cried Nicholas, "to postpone this marriage for one short week. Not until I have besought you to think more deeply than you have done, influenced as you are, upon the step you are about to take. Although you cannot be fully conscious of the villainy of this man to whom you are about to give your hand, some of his deeds you know. You have heard him speak, and have looked upon his face. Reflect, reflect, before it is too late, on the mockery of plighting to him at the altar, faith in which your heart can have no share, of uttering solemn words against which nature and reason must rebel, of the degradation of yourself in your own esteem which must ensue, and must be aggravated every day as his detested character opens upon you more and more. Shrink from the loathsome companionship of this wretch as you would from corruption and disease. Suffer toil and labour if you will, but shun him and be happy, for, believe me, I speak the truth, the most abject poverty, the most wretched condition of human life, with a pure and upright mind, would be happiness to that which you must undergo, as the wife of such a man as this." Long before Nicholas ceased to speak, the young lady buried her face in her hands, and gave her tears free way. In a voice at first inarticulate with emotion, but gradually recovering strength as she proceeded, she answered him, "I will not disguise from you, sir, though perhaps I ought, that I have undergone great pain of mind, and have been nearly broken-hearted since I saw you last. I do not love this gentleman. The difference between our ages, tastes, and habits forbids it. This he knows, and knowing, still offers me his hand. By accepting it, and by that step alone, I can release my father, who is dying in this place, prolong his life, perhaps for many years, restore him to comfort, I may almost call it affluence, and relieve a generous man from the burden of assisting one by whom, I grieve to say, his noble heart is little understood. Do not think so poorly of me as to believe that I fake love I do not feel. Do not report so ill of me, for that I could not bear. If I cannot, in reason or in nature, love the man who pays this price for my poor hand, I can discharge the duties of a wife. I can be all he seeks in me, and will. He is content to take me as I am. I have passed my word, and should rejoice, not weep, that it is so. I do. The interest you take in one so friendless and forlorn as I, the delicacy with which you have discharged your trust, the faith you have kept with me, have my warmest thanks, and, while I make this last feeble acknowledgment, move me to tears, as you see. But I do not repent, nor am I unhappy. I am happy in the